Alrighty, guys. First time ever having four handsome blokes around a table on fucking real. We said we were going to do it in the last podcast, Luke, and here we are, man. We've got a few extra cameras, a few extra mics, and a few extra blokes to talk a bit of men's mental health. So we've got Luke here, we've got Graydon, and we've got Bryan. Hopefully the new camera crew can turn the cameras around there quickly as I'm saying that. But boys, I know that I asked you all to bring a topic today. We thought the idea is that, the overall topic here is mental health. And, I've asked you guys individually to bring a topic to the table. So what we'll do is we'll just go around, starting with Luke, and introduce yourself, a little bit about yourself, what you do, and what your topic is if you got one.
So my name is Luke Kalani, and I am a ceremonialist, instrumentalist, and artist. So I perform music in different venues, but I also hold cacao ceremonies and different types of ceremonial work around Perth.
Nice.
And my topic today is semen retention.
Ooh.
Yep.
Nice. All right. We're off to a good start.
I don't know if I can match that one, eh?
Thought I'd throw a spanner in the works.
Are we going to start off with semen retention?
No, I'll let you boys start.
Yeah, all right. We'll see what else we've got, man.
So my name's Graydon Perrett. Just recently quit mechanics, a full-time entrepreneur. So,
Sweet.
Yeah, and today I want to talk about the difference between determination and motivation, and where it can get you and where it can distract you and where you can get lost with it.
Well done.
Sweet, man.
Beautiful.
All right. Well, I'm Bryan Carver and have been a naturopath for the last 3 decades, and I run Thrive Wellness Centre. And today I wanted to bring the topic of microbiome and the connection between the microbiome and the brain health in general.
Sweet, man.
Yeah.
I'm interested to talk about that as well, mate, because I know fuck all about that as well.
Yeah.
It's very, very interesting topic, and it can really open people's eyes on the importance of your complete health, but especially for mental health.
Yeah, cool. I don't really have a topic, only because I've had a really fucking rough week, man, mentally, physically, going through a lot of stuff to the point of almost calling this off. But and so I'm just privileged to have you boys here. I just want to talk mental health, man. There's obviously a lot of people out there struggling with mental health, man. There's a lot of stress going on, across the board, man. So I'm just happy to just open up that space and, and just talk openly about it. And so that's sort of like my topic in a nutshell. So, yeah.
Beautiful.
I feel you in that, man. I've had a rough week as well.
Have you?
So,
yeah.
Let's bring the good energy. Let's have some good chats.
Yeah. I mean, I was so excited for this.
Yeah.
And it's funny how, mentally I'm actually going all right. It's just like the outside world, man. Like looking for a rental, man. Like I got a week to find a house and move out and into a new house in a week. And I think overall that's my main stress. But then all these other little things are coming in, and but it also made me privileged of knowing of like how much I've grown over the last few years in terms of how to deal with mental health as well. Like being open to these sorts of things and doing new events and walking through some doors like the 9D breathwork that we done, brother.
Yeah.
And in these times of hard times, which is life stuff really at the end of the day, that, it's not like someone's dying or anything, but yeah, just be able to put breathwork into practice, man, when things are at the hardest, man. But it did make me even more passionate about what we're doing here with FKR, because there are men out there and people in general that are mentally fucking struggling, man. So I guess this is opening up that table and having those real discussions about it all, man, and the different walks of life of what you can add and what you've gone through in your journeys and Yeah, man. So
especially the breath work, man. Like, I relate to that. Today, you know, I reached a limit, and I'd actually was printing off some photos of mates that have passed away from suicide. Leading up to the ultra marathon, I'm going to put them on the table. So when I run, I've got photos of my mates that I've lost, and I've also got mates that have lost their dads, a few of them.
Yeah.
So I sent these photos off to get laminated, and I had to go through them and put them onto, I think it was Office Works, to get them sent off and printed. And man, I just fucking cried, eh? I sat there for about an hour, and it was hard. And after that, it just compounded with a few hits on the business and a few negative phone calls. And I feel like you get into that vulnerable state. And seeing those photos, it was a positive vulnerable state because I was appreciating and loving on the brothers that are gone. But then following it with negative stuff when you're in that vulnerable state can just open you up and expose you a bit.
Yeah.
I was thankful a mate rang me after and we had a beautiful conversation. I said, bro, I've just been crying for an hour. And he actually brought a lot of fun, a lot of energy to that conversation, made me laugh, and it was beautiful. But yeah, bro, I've been struggling today on that side.
Yeah, sweet, man.
The sitting down doing breath work really helped me out. I put a YouTube, I'll try and remember the clip, it's a certain tone to it. It's just beautiful music, man. Put that in, just laid on my bed, middle of the day, and just did breath work, and that kind of realigned me a bit, eh?
Is it a specific breath technique that you're doing?
I do a lot of Wim Hof, yeah. Got a lot of Wim Hof. I don't actually know the terminology on the breath work itself, but obviously just mouth breathing. But it just really aligns me, brings you back down. But sometimes it's tough to do though. You know, when you're reaching that limit and you just got to try and focus on breath work, it's so hard to bring yourself down to do that, especially when it's anger as well.
Yeah.
I find.
Has anybody tried Ashtanga yoga?
No.
Tell us about that,
Ashtanga
mate.
yoga is a very old lineage of yoga. We go back 2,000 years and we can trace it down, and we've got documents. And the whole fundamental about Ashtanga is breath. So they teach you how to breathe, first of all. And that's the yoga, it's the breath. And then we incorporate the breath with movement. So as you move, you're breathing, and then as you move out of it, you're breathing out. And we've got techniques that we blowing, opening and shutting the stomach to help the breath come in and help the breath go out fully. And this breath just keeps extending, and by the end of your session, you're breathing so easily, and your breath is just so long.
Do you hold, or do you just
You can
breath?
hold when you're just meditating in that breath.
Yeah.
So if I'm meditating, I can hold the breath, and you're breathing 2 times a minute, as opposed to, 12 times a minute.
Yeah.
So it just brings your nervous system down, and you just settle.
And how important is it to, when you are going through some tough times, to even recognise where your breath's at, and when it's a lot faster, and to do something like what you're talking about is.
Do you guys find your jaw? For me, I actually bite to the point where my jaw will lock. You don't realise until you actually are conscious of it, and you go like, "Whoa!" I was like tight. in the jaw. Yeah.
I feel it all in my face. Like sometimes, especially like when you're doing like meditations, or when you've actually stopped and you've checked in with yourself, and then you just feel your whole body just tense, man. So what is there any sort of, because with that sort of breath work, it feels to me as if like you have to go and is there anything you can share, maybe if you are in a real stress, like if you are having a fucking hard time and you want to just give something for those who are listening at home and know nothing about breath work, is there something other than taking a nice big deep breath in and letting it out, is there something that gives sort of quick relief that you can share quickly on, man?
Yep, absolutely. In Ashtanga yoga, or any yoga for that matter, corpse pose is the final pose that we lay on our back with our legs just floppy, relaxed, and our arms a little bit away from our body. And that pose just completely comes over you. It really creates a relaxation, and I use it a lot. I run a business, and there's a lot of stress in that. Sometimes, you're just in a position where you really need to just calm down quickly. And I'll just close my door lay on the floor, set my alarm for 10 minutes and just chill out. Eyes are gently closed and you start the breathing, breathing in slowly. Unlike your breath work, which is in and out through the mouth, with Ashtanga yoga, we're breathing slowly through the nose, in, and then breathing out like you're breathing out of a straw through the mouth.
Yeah, cool.
That's a great technique to try.
It's almost like when you're in that position, you're sort of surrendering to whatever it is that's going on a bit as well, isn't it?
Absolutely.
We talk about that a lot on this podcast, man, with all different sorts of things. I mean, we spoke about it, Yeah.
I think that's the key, is honestly just taking a few moments, even if you have to set an alarm 4 times a day, where it goes off, and whatever you're doing, you just stop. Just check in. It's like, how often do we do that throughout the day? We usually have to do it when it's built up and we're in a state of stress, high stress. But we can do that throughout the day and just come back to the breath. It's simple, really simple. Sometimes it doesn't have to be, like, I love breath work as well, all types of breath work. I've done the 9D, it's absolutely phenomenal.
Insane.
And Ashtanga as well, with Mark Whitwell, I've done a few with him. It's life-changing. Like, it changed my perspective of what yoga was. It wasn't these acrobatic shapes anymore. It was the breath making space for movement. And it was the breath that led the movement, and that completely flipped everything on its head for me, because I didn't have to be good at it. Yeah. Anyone can do it.
Because we spoke about that with yoga before, man. Like, yoga for me, I'm completely... I'm just in pain the whole time, man.
Like, I thought you were going to say that. I was looking at you like, I'm the same, brother.
There's nothing relaxing about yoga, man. But in saying that, I see, like, the times I have done it, man, the benefits of it after the fact, like just feeling opened up, and then also trying to incorporate the breath with the stretches, and trying to push yourself. And you made a good point before when we were speaking, man, like having that, it gets, you're strengthening your mind, and you notice it in everyday life, like when you're holding those poses for a long period of time, and your brain's, we related it to getting tattooed as well. You're strengthening your mind because you're learning to adjust, tough situations. You can sort of go back to how you're feeling at yoga and some of those poses, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's get into semen retention, man.
Well, it's not a topic that I'm an expert on. I don't know the ins and outs of it. It's just something that I decided spontaneously to do, and I felt the benefits of it, especially from a mental state. Like, I felt like I was suffering with ADHD, and I was never diagnosed with ADHD as a child. It happened when I was later on in life, when I was an adult. And there was a few factors that could have related to that. And I decided to do a bit of research, and when it came to semen retention, it was so interesting that whenever you're having sex with a partner and you are ejaculating all the time, it's giving you this flood of dopamine, it's giving you a flood of all these chemicals. And that when you stop doing that and you actually hold it, it's what is it? It creates life. Our semen is the thing that creates life with our counterpart. And instead of spilling it outwards, we're able to retain it and cycle it through the body, and it's creative energy. And I'm a musician, so I've noticed that it gives me so much more creative energy. And I feel more energy just in general, clearer head, best workouts at the gym. There is so many benefits that I'm kind of noticing subtly and quite drastically as well. And I wanted to bring it to the table only to see whether you guys knew about it, have done it, or what do you think about it?
Well, I haven't. Well, when you say retention, like on how long, like what sort of periods are you talking?
So
a day or a month, a year,
an hour?
Yeah. And that was a start. It completely depends up to you. It's like however you're feeling. I feel like at the moment, if I want to choose to retain, I'll retain. And if there is a time when I'm actually feeling like I want to release some energy, then I will choose to do that as well. But also, it wouldn't be in a spontaneous kind of like, oh, fuck it, I'm just going to do it kind of thing. It's like I will decide beforehand. So I'm still in this seat of control of my own urges.
Yep.
I just found that it's been really beneficial for me in every way. Like going to the gym is just knock-on effect of that just throughout every facet of life. This feels like it's a similar kind of thing.
Do you think it's like fasting? Like you need to resist the urge to get past that wall?
I think so. I think maybe the power of it is what semen is in the first place. I feel like we just feel like it's this fluid that comes out. Yes, it can make a baby, but it's also like part of an orgasm for men. And I feel like we can learn to separate the orgasm from the ejaculation to where it feels like we are in our pleasure of having an orgasm without actually having to ejaculate. I feel like that's a pretty fucking cool thing to be able to do if we're able to do that and practice it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I've practiced it, not so much like that, but you know, leading up to like ayahuasca.
Yeah.
You know, like the diet that you sort of do is you know, no sexual anything really, and or distractions. Is, you know, there's a lot of things to the diet. So I guess that's where I first sort of started practicing it, but mine's more even around having that control and what does it mean, man? Like, so I've had like over an eight month sort of break from females, like everything in general, you know, just to sort of, because, and at first it was like, what the fuck you doing, Dave? You're off your fucking head. You know, all males got a fucking root, you know, all this sort of, all these normal programs that you have. And then, and that's what was starting to make me question it more, you know, because part of this whole journey that I've been on, this is obviously a big part to it. So it's interesting you're talking about it, because after a few months, and it wasn't retention for the whole time for me, but particularly mine was more from a female point of view, or my relationship with sex and females and things like that, you know, and even my own relationship around it and how you see things. You know, porn's a big thing, man, as well.
Yeah.
Just cutting that fucking right out, man.
It's life-changing.
Fucking oath, man.
Yeah,
you know, and so that's been my journey with that, and yeah, like now coming out of the back end of it, like about 8 to 10 months later, my whole mindset's changed. To the point of, you know, but it was a battle right at the start. Like you've got your ego fucking telling you, I'm not happy with this. You know, you're a weirdo or whatever it may be, but push through, man, and it wants you to make you explore it even more, man.
That's it.
You know,
I was the same as you. Like the first time I experienced it was before the build up to ceremony, where I was abstaining from all of that in lead up to plant medicine. And I started noticing a little bit of differences there, but then it was the way that the shamans talk about it, of what sexual energy is and how it is literally everything. And in this culture, it seems to be everything is overly sexualized. Porn is free. Like, there's a reason for that, you know? There's a reason that you can have it at a touch of a button, because they know that people that hold their energy, their sexual energy, and contain that shit, they're powerful people and they cannot be fucked with. Whereas if you are messing with people that are just spilling their sexual energy all over the place, there's like highly over-sexualized things on TV, marketing, everything. It's a loss of control. It's a loss of control.
The one thing that sort of come to me pretty quickly was just how empty it is.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like drugs. You know, you chase that high, that hit of dopamine, and then it's gone. You ejaculate, it's done. And especially if you're watching porn, it's all fake.
Yeah.
Most of it's not realistic. No one's got a 12-inch cock.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I find that with porn.
Brian's a little bit quiet over here, mate.
Is that why? Don't ask me.
I haven't experienced this at all.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on it, man? What are you? I'm glad you asked that question.
I'm fascinated listening to you boys go on about this.
Yeah.
It's never even crossed my mind, so it's something brand new to me, and gosh, I've never gone there. Yeah. It's never happened.
Never watched porn?
No, I've never abstained from it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just been part of my journey, I guess, and it's just very interesting to hear what your opinion on that.
Well, I feel like it's helped me feel such an authentic pleasure, where it isn't like you say, you know, when you just ejaculate and that's it and you're left feeling empty. It is, I feel it, what is happening with most men is that when we're having sex or fucking or whatever, all of our energy is down in our genitals, like all of it. And we just feel this need to like release it in some way. And instead of releasing it out, starting to breathe it using pranayama up into the body through the system of the energy centers and circling it around in through the body, and it doesn't have to go anywhere. And we're feeling it throughout every cell of the body. It's like it's charging us up. I feel like it's spiritual energy at the end of the day.
I guess. Oh, sorry.
No,
I guess why professional athletes, man. Like, I mean, they say not to have sex. I know with combat sport,
True.
if they've got a fight on, you know, coming up,
Yeah.
there's no sex or ejaculation, you know.
Yeah.
And they're pretty clear on that. So I mean, that's saying something in itself, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just about having a chat with your partner or whatever, because sometimes it's like, what do you mean? And it can be like, that needs to be a discussion as well, because that can bring stuff up in your partner or whatever, as in like, or do you not like it or whatever. You have to go into these like uncomfortable conversations, and it can really like increase the intimacy between
For sure.
a man and a woman. And I've noticed like my attraction levels to women, like I see women as human beings, as women, you know.
That's one thing I noticed too, man.
You know,
Like, yeah.
and it's like they're just beautiful human beings, and I'm just not
an object.
my energy is just solid. Like I'm not like spilling my energy out like at the gym, like like nah,
There's
I'm
no
not about
ego.
that anymore.
Yeah.
You know.
That's so
Yeah.
true. Like, I used to see females as an object, like, and that's how it was, man. Honestly, like, probably that stat man kind of mentality, just trying to rack the stats up in the party days kind of thing. Where now, you know, I'm not actually attracted to a female's image. I'm attracted to her energy.
Yeah.
And you know, her physical appearance, she may not be very attractive, but you can have the most beautiful conversation, and that actually can arouse me.
Yeah.
The
100%.
conversation. It's such a wild twist to it, but I feel like it all kind of unconsciously folds in with the no ejaculation.
Yeah.
Like, you know, relating to your story, when I went through my darker patch, I just said, right, no pussy, no drugs, no drinking, nothing. That's it. I'm going just dry.
Yep.
And I can honestly say it's probably been a year and a half since I've had sex. Ejaculated, different story, but best year
Just
and a
on
half,
that
man.
note though, because I feel like I'm relating to you heaps here, man. But so the crossover of your identity as well, man. Like, like believing, fuck, am I feeling this, or is this the new me? And then letting go of the old ego.
Yeah.
And
Well, you think you need it. Like, you think you have to have it, where it brought so much clarity. And that's what I say, like, unconsciously, because I've unconsciously made that choice, and I've had so many positive effects from it.
Yeah.
Without even realising. And you talking about it now, it's like kind of bringing those memories up, thinking, man, like, I had that massive gap, and no porn as well. I still haven't.
Yeah.
And that's, you got that no false reality, and you've just got clarity. And for me, it was massive. It gave me, like you said, my whole identity was built around it. So you eliminate it, and I've still got mates going like, man, like, you haven't had a root in a while. Like, are you gay? You know, I'm still copping those comments, but for me, it's like, it doesn't fuss me.
Yeah.
But because those guys know as my identity was built around it, just partying, you know, rooting around, that kind of stuff, where now it's the complete opposite. I'll go talk to a girl, go out for dinner, have a good chat, and then happily go home without having to try to get her in bed.
Yeah.
It's a completely different mentality, but like you said, you've got to change your whole identity, and it comes with everything, like not just sex.
I find you even doing different things as well on dates. Like I went to yoga on a date, you know.
Yeah.
I would never have done that before.
Yeah.
Never. But I think because your mentality,
You've
you're
got
not
no end
chasing.
goal.
Eh?
Got no end goal.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I've got to take her out to a restaurant so I can take her to a bar so that I can get her home.
Yeah.
And get some drinks.
That's
and,
it.
And get loose. That's the other thing, having to have drinks. So
Yeah,
let's go and
man.
have a few drinks.
Yeah.
Where now, like, I mean, I hardly drink. I drink here and there, but
Yeah.
I used to have to drink
Same.
to be able to go out and chat with a girl, get her in
Yeah,
bed.
yeah.
I thought I had to be drunk to do
So
that.
we're
Fuck,
treating
man, I
this
feel
like an addiction.
Yeah.
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 Well, it is really, isn't
Well,
it?
even for me, it's like when you take out the alcohol part of it, and then when you've gone through what we're talking about, it's almost like you're a virgin again, because you're like, fuck, I don't know it like this.
True.
And it's
That's terrifying.
yeah, man. And then you know,
Do you have that belief where you're like, can I still do it? Because like, you know, you sit there and you think like, I'm sober, like, can I do it? Or like, honestly,
Do you reckon
am I
you
gonna
can?
be premature? Or like,
Yeah,
have these
I
thoughts
know,
where
man.
you're like, do I need to get drunk? Or like, I mean, these are the thoughts I've had. This
Mate,
is
I
me,
will
it's
be
been raw.
honest with you because I same as you guys. It took me a while to be able to, and like that brings up, so much because we want to be able to perform when the opportunity calls, like, and if we are so used to having a crutch to be able to do that, calm the nerves, because we all get fucking nervous. I don't care what anybody says. Like I still get nervous,
100%.
but to not have that crutch and be like, fuck, I actually have to do this. It's
Yeah.
terrifying.
How-
And then you have to have a conversation about it, which is fucking equally as terrifying. With like, I'm all good. It's just that right now I'm not.
You know where it came up was when we done it with Alan at the 9D breathwork. He brought it up, like, because we spoke about like all the main things like with guilt and shame and as males, and that's what we were doing in this 9D breathwork, and trauma, you know, childhood trauma and things, and that's the sort of stuff that we're bringing up and talking about mainly. But even when he touched base on, you know, sexual anxiety, you know, and even shame through growing up, and you know, like whose dick's bigger than the other, and all this sorts of shit as males growing up, and he touched on a whole lot of areas that I've never really thought about before, you know, and I was just like, fuck, man, you know, and it's good that we're talking about it too, man, because it is probably something that needs to be spoken about.
I think it goes to your childhood, like you said, like in school, you're in the gymnasium, you get changed, everyone's like, oh, he's got a small dick, you know, something like that, and then you get into an adult, you're just conscious about it. At the end of the day, you're born with it.
We've got a lady in the room too, Sorry about this. But she's probably going, what?
This is what men think about.
The sad thing about it as well, man, that we're just going back to the alcohol sex thing. It's like that one of the most beautiful things that we can do as human beings is that we blanket it, that we numb it, you know, through alcohol.
Yeah. That's a shame.
Yeah.
Right? It can be a fucking beautiful experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Shame.
It
I feel like shame is the driving force to all of that. Like you were talking about school and stuff. I feel like this is where it starts to imprint into us of, what if I'm not good enough, or what if there's something wrong with me, alcohol, drugs, or anything. It takes that edge off, and we become superheroes and get used to it.
Yeah. Man, this cacao's really opening up the.
It's good, right?
Yeah.
Chill, man. We should get some lounges, I reckon.
I need to get some comfier chairs, eh? Is it going all right,
good,
mate?
buddy. It's good. It's fine. Yeah.
Should we move on to well, who's top? I'm looking in your direction, man. Let's start talking about what you brought to the table.
The microbiome makes up part of your mucosal lining. It's not just in the gut health as people know it. You know, it's through your skin. It's in your lungs, and it makes up the health of all your organs. You know, and it changes constantly from birth all the way through life. And when you're sick, your microbiome is in a deficiency. So to get better, we need to eat better food. You know, what's what's the old wives' tale? You know, when you're sick, you eat a good chicken broth and blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of truth to that. And I've been watching the microbiome develop over the last 15 years. And 15 years ago, I was sort of almost naive to it, even as a naturopath. And then the last 10 years, it's been really popping up everywhere. And so I've been a lot more involved with it. And I do a lot of fasting and detoxing and elimination, you know, of substances and foods that we're putting into our body that can damage the body. And when you talk about damage, you're damaging the microbiome. So then you need to look at feeding the microbiome. It's almost like a plant. It needs fertilizer, it needs water, it needs sunlight, and then it will grow. And the microbiome is the same. So we need to slowly have that scale change of substances that are killing it and reduce that.
And what are those substances, man? Like, are they all the obvious, like alcohol and?
They are the obvious
sugars.
Yeah, they're inflammatory foods, and the foods that really help to get it going are more raw plant-based foods, fermented foods. So when you cut out your dairy and your wheat and your alcohol and your sugar, they are our four main westernized food groups that are really harming our body.
Is this because of how we digest them, or is it more like you like?
Well, we struggle to digest them.
Yeah.
Most people have got an intolerance to those types of food, but we are just ignoring it. You know, we ignore the fact that we're feeling bloated and we're passing wind and we're burping. It just becomes a daily part of our life that we ignore. We get skin flare-ups and we just put up with it. You know, we walk around putting up with it, and we just keep going back to what we know. You know, we're in a society that drives this. You know, the government is part of it. They grow sugar, they grow wheat, we grow, we farm cows and dairy, and the government is pushing it because there's money in it, and that's what we know.
We're talking about addictions before. Like, our stomach, if we're hungry, it tells the brain go and hunt for food. Yeah. So, I know hardly anything about this, but I do know one thing, that your stomach is in control a lot of the time over your brain, you know, and particularly around food. And I guess this is what all those marketing comes from, isn't it? You know, like targeting
it targets it.
Yeah.
And not only does the food target it, but your gut is telling your brain what it's wanting. So those particular bacteria that we have in our gut microbiome, I think when it's out of balance, is craving for that food. So what we're doing is we're feeding those bad bacterias. And when you put the good microbiome back, the probiotics that you have and the fermented milk products and things like this that are going to feed those good microbiome, then those good microbiome give you a different appetite. All of a sudden, that broccoli tastes really good, and you start to crave it.
How long does that take? Like, if you were to sort of fast or go into a new diet?
It probably takes a few weeks to kick in, but you've got to be very conscious. And when you start being conscious of your body, you start being aware of how you're feeling. You know, you start going, oh, wow, I didn't quite think about that before, you know. And when we do a detox, I do a 2-week detox with patients, and after the 2 weeks, they feel the difference. You know, we've eliminated those 4 dietary foods that most of us are eating too much of, and we are increasing all the goodness. And all of a sudden, the weight loss is part of it. We're not aiming to lose weight, but we just lose body fat as your body is getting better nutrients.
So with these detox programs or things, what do you call them? Like
I call them a reset, a detox program.
And it's obviously happening through Thrive, but is it
Absolutely.
online or is it?
Yeah,
Like,
it is. It's an online system that I've been doing for the last 2 years. I've been doing it personally for the last 30 years, and I've involved my whole family does it with me from time to time. And over the last 2 years, I thought, I'll start picking random patients that I feel really would benefit from it. And I've slowly put it together. I've done about 10 of them now.
Yeah, cool.
That people have actually paid for, and it's a lot of fun. So I do a consultation, a naturopathic consultation over the phone, and then after I've consulted everybody, say I've got 10 participants, then I create a closed Facebook group, and for the 2 weeks I'm just pumping in information about all the beautiful things that are good for us, you know.
Yeah.
And people learn from it, and people try it, and they realise, wow, this is making me feel good, and before you know it, that relationship with your brain sort of kicks in. You become more alert. You have more energy. You become less irritated, and this is a direct link with food. You know, so it's a wonderful thing.
I practice like fasting. Like my last meal's like, say, you know, dinner at night time, but I'll go through to about 11 o'clock the following day at least, and fasting. Sometimes I might have a smoothie in that time, but I just notice like my energy that I have in the way I communicate or work or focus on things by not eating for that period of time. And I've only worked that out myself. No one's actually told me that. It's just that I find that I've just, you know, over many years that's just what I do. And I'm very particular then at around about lunchtime what I eat as well, because if I find if I go and eat a huge meal, you know, I sort of die pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have as much energy. So it's interesting to hear. So as part of your program, sort of fasting as well as the
So I teach how to fast properly. We do a 16-hour fast, like what you're mentioning.
Yeah.
And then we do a 24-hour fast, and then we do a 40-hour fast. That's how we end.
It's a little bit like the semen retention. Like you're using energy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And also when you're fasting, you got to think about how much energy the process of digestion takes from the body. And when you're eliminating that, then your body has efficient energy to heal itself. Because I feel like that's practically what it is. It's like we're taking away the process of burning all of this energy, because we are literally in the most sophisticated healing machine there is. Like this is the human body. It can heal itself like that. You just got to stop everything and allow it to do its job. That's my opinion anyway.
Spot on.
Yeah. I did a 60-day no food fast. So I was just drinking like vegetable juices, I suppose. Vegetable juices and some watermelon juice, and did that for 60 days. And the stuff that came out of me was horrifying. That stuff has been there for like my entire life.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm talking like serpents coming out that I could pick up, and it was just like the shape of my intestines.
That's
it was
what?
Yeah.
How did you feel coming out of that?
Emotional. Like as soon as it came out of my body, I would have an emotional release. So it was almost like this. Yeah, it was like my body was holding on to this baggage that once it had gone, I was just like, I felt emotional. Yeah, but in a good way.
Wow.
Yeah, in a good way.
And so, I want to give this a go.
Yeah.
But how do you conduct? I mean, how do, again, for the people that are watching this, and including myself, what's a good way to enter into this, man?
Speak to the professional.
I would advise that you start slowly.
Yeah.
And you do an extended fast.
Because you could do damage as well, yeah? Can you? Or
Look,
is it all good?
You know, it's
Maybe we do damage every time we put food in our mouth these days.
Yeah.
But if you're, I've got a kind of counter question here though. So for me, with my training and stuff, my nutrition plan is quite full on, and I have 5-6 meals a day spaced out. If you're an athlete and you need to fast or watch what you're putting in and out of your body, like my protein intake is ridiculous, and I know because some days, like you said, you can listen to your body. But for the training wise, it's what the trainer recommends. So when it comes to fast, you know, or that link between the both, how would, you know, athletes go about it?
Look, the athletes can do it, but you just need to keep in mind when you're fasting, you're going to lose a little bit of weight. Yeah, and then when you go back to eating, the idea is to have a better diet, have a cleaner diet. You know, as an athlete, your diet should be fairly spot on, I guess. Yeah, so you just got to dig deep and have a good look and see more foods that are causing damage, inflammation. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for foods that are high in alkaline, so we're dropping acidic forming food, and we're dropping foods that are causing inflammation to the body, because that's what's going to cause damage.
And is it all the same foods for everyone?
It's all the same foods for everybody. Yeah. All inflammatory foods will lead to chronic illness. That's a fact. So when you're looking at reversing any form of disease, that's the first thing we should do. Stop feeding the body this crap that we're eating. And the inflammation just comes down. Your inflammation markers come down. People in pain have less pain.
You know, going off that, and I can speak on behalf of my mum, I know she'll be fine with it, but she battled liver disease for years, and she actually went vegan, and in doing that, it was by choice. Obviously your liver processes a lot of the red meat and stuff like that. So she chose to go vegan, and basically the doctors told her she had 5 years to live. This is 15 years ago, and now she's completely cured and free. And that was basically changed diet. Like you've just said, causing inflammation in her bowels and in her liver, and the body, what you put in, the body's got to process it all the way till it comes out.
It's toxic.
Exactly right. And when Mum went vegan, I thought, what you get taught growing up is your 2 fruit, 5 veg, or 5 veg, 2 fruit, whatever it is. Your meat, you know, you've got to have your meat. I grew up with an African family, so if you didn't like meat, you're not in the family. But it's not like that, is it?
It's not like that.
No.
It really isn't. Yeah. And especially when you're talking about the liver health, the liver is the most detoxifying organ in the body. When you're eating high meat, high fat, there's lots of toxins that come off that breakdown of those foods. And those toxins are getting cleaned by the liver. So all of a sudden your liver has got no time to do its job. Its full-time job now is to eliminate all the rubbish that you're putting in. So all of a sudden, if you stop putting the rubbish in, the liver has got a chance to detoxify your body the proper way. And this is how we get better.
And obviously processed foods, as
Processed
well as alcohol
foods.
and drugs, just
Trash.
add that extra
Absolutely.
layer to it, eh?
Yeah, it does. You know, and look, all these things are fun. Short term, we can cope. The longer term we go, we cope less. The longer we go, we start getting sick. You know, so it's pretty clear. You can see it. It's pretty black and white.
It's,
you know,
it's these sort of conversations that need to be said at an early age, man. Like, because sometimes, well, knowledge is key, and, you know, at my age, you're learning all this sort of stuff, you know, even from like sex to, you know, dieting to, you know, breath work and things like that, man. It's like, and I guess this is where these sort of men's talks, you know, we're hoping that we can open up and sort of pass it down and educate and, you know, because, and even just what you do over there when I've been over there with manipulating your neck or, you know, like even just, you know, a bit of dry needling here or there, and it's all that sort of stuff where you know nothing about, and until you actually sort of walk through those doors and
you walk out better.
Yeah.
You know, people walk out with a smile.
Yeah.
They're limping in, they're walking out, You know, it's not. This is it. This is the real thing, and we got to open up to the reality of life. I guess you know we've got to call a spade a spade. Drugs cause harm. Drugs are a lot of fun. There's two ways to look at it. You know, alcohol can be quite a lot of fun. You know, but it also causes liver problem. So you've got to have a look and weigh it up and see what's going on in life, you know. Yeah.
What else? Just on the note of what you do over there at Thrive. What other? Because I'm just sort of wanting other people to know what you offer.
Look, Thrive is essentially been a pain management, sports injury sort of specialist field that I've built over the last 30 years, and like I said, I've always had a fascination with detoxing, and I know how much it's helped me and make me feel very focused, mentally sharp. So you know, we do a lot of massage, we do a lot of chiropractic, a lot of acupuncture, but we're also getting into the holistic health, you know. And part of the holistic journey is fasting, detoxing, cleaning ourselves up. So that's what we're doing there.
Yeah.
I'm on, man.
Taking care of our temple and our energy.
Absolutely.
And it's like we've just covered two of the foundations of those. Sex, which is a primal need for everybody, and I feel like we're living in a society where we are being told this is how to take care of those foundations, and everybody just goes along with it as if it's like, well, that's what's best for us. And I feel like we're in this age now where we are aware enough that it isn't fucking working. And the only way for us to find out what does work is to go inside, because everybody is at different stages. At a fundamental level, we all need the same shit, but because we're all so at different stages, we have to find that journey ourselves. And I feel like with your mom as well, going vegan, like what you were talking about, as her choice to go vegan made her feel better, her body feel better, but then because of the microbiome changes, then it affects the brain, and then you start making better choices in life across the board. You're not feeling because when I'm feeling shit, I make shitter choices. When I'm feeling amazing about myself, I'm more confident, I'm going to be doing things that are more in alignment with my spirit than my shitty self when I'm not in a good place, you know?
It's breaking that stigma as well, I reckon, with the natural side, the holistic side. You know, for me growing up, to do anything on that holistic natural side, you just get given shit. And that's just the stigma. Like, not everyone, but predominantly where I grew up with, you know, if you delve down that side of things, you'd end up just copping shit from everyone. Where, you know, now with the age I'm at, you know, you're starting to either see the effects of it on your relationships. Like, it all comes down to what goes in: alcohol, drugs, and food. But then it starts to affect your job, your relationship, your lifestyle, your family, your choices, everything. And then that's where people start to think and delve into it. But some people, it's never too late, but some people do it quite a lot, like 50, 60, 70-year-olds start to realise then, but 70 years of your life gone. We're trying to break that stigma so people in the younger days.
My struggle's the drinking culture, man. Like, you know, again, it's like everything else, like even the social aspect of it, you know, and to break away from that almost feels like you're cutting your right arm off, you know. It does honestly feel like, especially growing up, you know, the way I've been brought up and among my family and particularly friends here in Australia. I mean, I had a bit of a blowout on Saturday and it ruined my whole fucking week. And normally it wouldn't ruin my week, but because I've limited and cut it all down, but when you actually do go and have a session on the drink, it's like, fuck, you know, on how much damage you realise how much.
Do you think that's like because you've had a break, or do you think it's just because you realise how good life is when you don't feel shit?
Yeah.
Because for me, that was me.
Yeah.
Like people ask me what's wrong with me because I hardly drink anymore, don't do drugs. Like I had a beer 6 months ago, that's about it. And people will say, what's wrong with you? Like that's the culture. Like,
it's crazy.
Why aren't you drinking? What's wrong with you? It's the most accepted drug. No one says, let's go down the pub and smack up on heroin. No. It's like, let's go to the pub and have a beer.
Probably healthier.
Yeah. It's probably healthier, man. Alcohol just sabotages your relationships, your health, everything. And it's the most accepted drug. Yeah. Even especially with mental health, you know, when you're battling, like when I was going through my mental health battles, and this is nothing against my mates because it's all we knew, but let's go to the pub, man, let's get on it, you know, let's blow some steam off. It's the worst thing to do, but it's such an outing. Like, it's just the way to go. Just have a beer, or, you know, you're having a tough time, you've had a big week, let's just sit down and have a few drinks. It shouldn't be that.
It's an education.
And trying to switch that, though, is probably the hardest thing you can do. And even now, to this day, I still get people saying, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, I'm fucking happy as. I'm loving life, man. Like, I'm honestly loving life. When I do have a drink, the next day I'm flat.
Yeah.
But I look at it like, life's too short. You want to run 100% all the time. Yeah. And you should be allowed to. There's no reason why you shouldn't. You have your ups and downs in life, but you should always wake up wanting to run 100.
Yeah.
I find, you know, 1 beer, 2 beer, 3 beer, 10 beers, you wake up next morning, you're running 98%, 85%.
Even anxiety. Like I've noticed, like my anxiety in the mornings, like if I've had a drink, and only sometimes if it's just a couple of beers. So I think it's a little bit of both. One, getting used to like longer periods without it, and then when you have it, you realise, fuck, you know. But also, how good you feel, like you do. And I guess this all comes down to what you're talking about, how the gut's absorbing it and passing it through the body as well. And
I do 3 to 4 detoxes a year. Personally, I do it between 4 weeks and 10 weeks. And during that time, there's no alcohol, obviously. And I cut wheat completely and most sugars. I still have a coffee. Sometimes I cut coffee off. So depending on how much I've been abusing something to what I pick that I'm going to cut out. Sometimes if I've had a bad couple of months, I go really hard and I fast and I detox and I just keep going. But at the end of that period, that reset period, I feel so good. You know, I've got so much energy. My eyes open up in the morning before my brain wakes up, and I'm like, wow, okay, let's do this, you know. And you're getting out of bed and you're getting on with it, you know. It's amazing. But I guess you need control in everything you do, and I've always had that control. I'm 1 in a million, and I realise that, you know. I've always had that control to go out and party hard for 2 months and then just go, hey, boys, that's it.
See you later.
On the 10th of August, I'll be missing for 2 months. And it's been acceptable. So I guess it's an education on our behalf on being strong enough to be able to say, hey, I'm going through something and I feel my body or my brain needs a break. And this is when I'm going to have a break. So you want to catch up for a beer? I'm still open. But on this date, I'm going to stop and I'm going to run it for a month. And have some respect, back me up, come and join me, let's go for a walk, let's go and hit the bag, let's go and do something positive instead of having a beer, which is definitely a negative in the way that we're trying to feel positive about our brain or our gut health or inflammation.
So what do you tell, like, I was driving down the road the other day and how do I say this respectively? There was a mother pushing a pram and she's completely off chops, you know. And she had like he must have been like a 4-year-old boy. And I look at things like that really closely because I relate to it, you know. Not so much to that contents of it, you know, but like still just how's that boy going to grow up? You know what I mean? What choices? What has he seen? He's only 4 and I could only imagine fucking what has that boy seen already? And, you know, then he starts seeing that's normal and he starts taking on drugs, alcohol, even thoughts, sex, woman, you know, and he starts seeing all these things growing up to the point where, unless he sees it a different way, that's his norm. Where does it stand with kids like that, man? Because a lot of people don't understand that. People don't understand. They just go, fuck it, Tim. He's just a shit kid. He's got brought up. It's fucking ADHD or something like that. You know, it's not actually looking at the real core. But for him to grow up and then to try and understand what we're talking about now there's such a big gap.
Where do they go?
That's a big question.
It is, man.
Where do they go?
Well, I feel that we're all responsible for that now. Because we are, I mean, you mentioned it before, Luke, like we are awakening to it now, man.
Yeah.
You know, we've got social media now and things as well. But I guess, I don't know. I mean, it's up to us to obviously start teaching it down and educating. But, you know, like,
I think we need to get it into school, you know. Growing up, we had health education, we had sex education, and I think they need to broaden these topics.
It's not going to work anymore,
you know,
how they used to teach.
Absolutely.
It's got to be changed.
It's got to be changed.
Yeah.
So I'm 50 and my eldest niece is 38. And when she turned 14, I asked my older brother his permission. I said, please, can I have a one-on-one with Stephanie? I want to talk to her about life, like really about life.
Beautiful.
Not just about sex, but about drugs, sex and rock and roll, how it really rolls.
Yeah.
And he said, of course, you know, because he, you know, my whole family have been coming to see me as a naturopath, as a remedial therapist, as an acupuncturist, as a osteopath, whatever, of whatever hat I've worn. They've taken the time to respect that and give me a go, and I've done only great things for him. So the respect has been there, and he allowed me. And I sat down, and they all still remember it. You know, I've got 10 nephews and nieces, and they've all had this conversation with Uncle Brian. And they all come into my office,
I like that,
shitting their pants, going, oh shit, what the hell has he got to talk to me about? And we just lay it out on the table, you know, and the facts about drugs and sex and boys and girls and what you're into, and do you like a boy, do you like a girl, is it normal? And this conversation used to go on for about an hour, you know, and it's a bit of an eye-opener. It's
if you don't have that conversation, you go into it blind.
It's so
And
powerful.
you're offered drugs, or you're in a situation where there's some sort of sexual activity that's about to go down.
Yeah.
But you haven't been preempted. You don't need to, you know, scare someone. But I think what you've done there is amazing. Because you're not telling the secrets of life, but you're telling them what they need to expect. Because everyone's going to come to those situations. Doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah.
You're always going to come across drugs, alcohol, sex, violence. That's life.
Yeah.
And the alternative is they're going to learn it from their mates who are the same age as them,
Which is
who
just
doesn't
a
have
disaster.
any experience
point,
at all. You know,
I think that also goes to what you were saying, like generational as well. Because, like you said, with that mother with the 4-year-old kid, you know, it just gets passed through generations. And that's like, you look at the older generation with mental health and the male stigma. Toughen the fuck up. You're a pussy. Man up.
Yeah.
And there's nothing against them, because that's what their dads taught them. You know, going through the wars, you had to toughen up. Nowadays, it's a bit different. It's not that you've got to be soft and whatever, but a tough man is someone that talks about their emotions, that expresses their emotions. But it's a generational gap. And Ed Milet talks a lot about it, being the one in a family. And it's not the one to change a whole family, but it's the one that changes that stigma, changes the way you teach kids. Because the world's evolving, the generational changes, it has to evolve as well. You know, my kid, when I do have a kid, I'm going to sit down and say, look, you and I are going to cry. We're going to talk about this. Someone punches you, let's talk about it. You know, like, actually talking about it, not man up, or, you know, that kind of, which, like I said, there's nothing against that older generation, because it's all they knew.
Yeah, that's
you've got to educate.
We've got to add to it.
You've got to add to it. Yeah, you've got to change it. You've got to
I mean, these topics we're talking about tonight ain't, like, you know, they're not easy conversations to have, you know. But I feel the more we make it the norm, you know, it makes it easier for when these situations, you know, if it's sex or drugs or alcohol, whatever it may be, it makes it easier to have those conversations, I guess,
Yeah, we shouldn't be scared of it.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be scared to talk
or ashamed
to a 13 or a 14-year-old these days.
Yeah.
The age is getting even lower.
Yeah.
I feel like I should be getting in at 12 and a half now, you know, because just that 30 years of evolution from the 90s to the 2020, it's accelerated very fast.
And it's what they have access to.
They've got so much access.
Social media, like the internet.
Absolutely.
You're in nearly primary school and you can access the internet now.
Yeah.
Like, that's wild.
Yeah.
They've got resources that you should only have when you're an adult, and they've got it now in primary school. So like those conversations you're talking about, they've got to be had. Like, that's a has to. Yeah.
It has to.
Let's fucking do it, boys. Let's get a program together.
Yeah.
I'm going to move on to your topic now, mate.
Yes.
Where do you want to start with that, mate?
I feel like it's all linked in.
Yeah.
To be honest.
It's come at a good time.
Yeah. I like how you kind of sprung on us that we'll just bring our own thing to talk about.
Yeah.
And they're all kind of linked in, you know. I just want to talk about motivation and then determination, which obviously links into discipline.
Yep.
But the difference between them and how a lot of people get caught up on motivation. Because motivation, it comes and goes. When it comes, it's amazing.
Yeah.
You wake up, you're just ready to take the day on. You feel good, you tackle it, you're good to go. But it never sticks around. And then the next day, you fall off. Whether it comes to trying a naturopath or trying fasting or something like that, or, you know, trying to restrict your ejaculation, you know, some days you're motivated, like, you know, you leave the podcast, like, fuck yeah, I'm not going to go have a wank for a week. But then you wake up the next day, you have a shit day, motivation's gone. You just go straight back to it.
Yeah.
Where in today's society, there's so much easy substances and things out there to cover the emotions that you have to go to that vulnerable state. And I'm only speaking on this, and I like this subject because I lacked determination for so long, where I would hardly get out of bed. I'd eat shit food, I'd drink. I smoked for years, and I was, I'm going to quit smoking. I'm going to quit smoking. I'd wake up hungover, coughing up all sorts of shit, and I'd be motivated. Right, I'm done. I'm quit smoking. The next week, I'm straight back into it on a bender. But it's that's motivation that I'm relying on. Where now, if you can find determination in something, it just continues and continues and continues to go. You wake up in the morning, like you might see on my socials, like obviously going to the gym super early every single day. I meal prep every single week. I hate all that shit. I reckon probably 8 out of 10 times I don't want to go to the gym. I sat in the car this morning for like an hour, just staring at the gym, like I don't want to fucking go to the gym. But that's what I mean, where if I relied on motivation, there's no way I'd be able to do what I'm doing now.
What is it? What is it? I mean, I reckon that's a really good topic.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Because I talk a lot of that. I'm lucky that I have that determination because, you know, I've got every excuse to sort of be one of those guys out in the street and say, oh, well, fucking, you know, his upbringing, no wonder he's fucking the way he is. And people say you make your own luck, but I don't. I just feel I'm lucky enough to be determined to know that there's something better out there, you know, through the tough and fucking hard times that I've faced in this life. I've been determined to sort of see that there's another way, and even through having the lack of education of what else is out there. This is where this podcast has sort of come from, because I want to educate more for that. And I sort of like, does everyone have determination?
Well, do you think
was it something that's built in?
Do you think you've always had it though, or do you think circumstances you've been through have encouraged the determination to come in because you don't have another option?
Yeah.
You know, for me, if I stayed, motivation's amazing. Don't get me wrong. When it comes in, I grab it, and that's where I, you know, make good successes in the business or in my physical achievements. Because motivation comes, grab it and run with it, but do not rely on it because it will always stop. And that's where determination has to come in. And I think everyone can have that level of determination. You don't need to be a pro athlete, a successful businessman, anything like that. You just need to attach a why to it. As soon as you've got a why, doesn't matter, you wake up, it's raining, it's wet, it's cold, the bed's warm, you still get out of bed and you still get your fucking day done because of your why. And, you know, a lot of people relate their why to their kid. Where, you know, I know a few guys that have going through mental health issues and they've had their suicidal thoughts, and they look at their kids, they have a photo of their kids on their phone. That's their why, suicidal thoughts go. You know, for me, my why is to be the best version of myself. you know, in my eyes, I was a piece of shit for so many years. I wasn't the best person I could have been to my family, my friends. Life's too short to not be the best version of yourself. We've only got a short period of time on this planet. We might as well make the most of it.
Look, everybody makes mistakes. And that's the first thing I think is really important to acknowledge, and to look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, it's all right. But we've got to go forward. We've got to...
Yeah, definitely, man.
And there's going to be ups and downs constantly. So motivation is going to flow in and out of your whole life to the end. But I think we need a plan. I think a plan is the most valuable tool that I sit down and share with my patients. You know, I've had a pretty full life, but I've managed to keep myself on that path because of my plan. My plan has always been to help people with their health, and no matter what I did on this side of the wall, I always went back to it because I'm passionate about it. I love it. So, and it's not that easy, I guess, to find that passion in life. Not everybody just knows or has walked into something and they're just so passionate about it. So I realise how lucky I've been. But I think that's the first thing we need to sit down and have a plan, and then make small steps towards getting somewhere.
Do you feel that like part of that plan's got to be something you're passionate about as well? Like I feel if you're trying to achieve something that's just fucking unmotivating, you know, like I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my children. I could say that fucking flat out, and I'm fucking lucky I have got my children, because that's probably one of the things that have kept me alive. So it's true what you said then. And I guess, you know, not everyone's got that. You know, drug addiction's coming up for me right now, like as one of those things, you know. Yeah, you know, and I think suicide and you know, it all comes from, you know, some sort of destruction. I don't know, like if it's from alcohol and whatnot. But it's like, so how are you? I'm sort of just playing the person that may be suffering at home right now, listening to this conversation. What are some like, what do you leech onto? Let's say you've got no children, all right? Because children's a fucking great one. Well, you got family or something, you know, things. But like, where's a good starting point to be trying to get this determination to go, fuck, I'm not going to use this particular drug again, you know?
I reckon that's a tough one, because I think you've got to go through something, to be honest.
Yeah.
It doesn't just come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And situations that I put myself in has motivated me to not put myself there again. But the problem, and this is on a full-on note, but a lot of people play victim. Poor me, why me? You got to get the fuck over it. Everyone goes through shit in life. Everyone goes through shit. Everyone's shit stink. Some people just hide it better. David Goggins. It's so true though. Like, everyone goes through stuff, and a lot of the people that play victim, that don't want to make any changes in their life. Like, I don't judge anyone for their journey. I respect everyone's journey. Like, you know, some of my mates that are still partying quite hard, I used to do that, so I don't judge anybody. But if you look at your lifestyle choices, and this is where it links into, you know, what you eat and your sexual choices and all this kind of stuff, you wonder why you have no motivation, but you're consuming shit food, drugs, alcohol, and you're around shit people. It's impossible.
Yeah.
The one thing that I noticed massively, and it was the hardest decision ever, was surround myself with people I wanted to become, and it motivated me. Because I saw them and I thought, fuck, I want to be like that. And it's comparison, and comparison is a thief of joy, but I think when comparison is used for perspective, it's powerful. And I look at them and I think, I want to be like that. What do I need to do? Right, they don't really drink much, they don't do drugs, and they eat fairly healthy, you know. Start doing those things, and that was the hardest gap I think a lot of people get a little bit lost in, is making that choice and making those changes, because that's fucking hard, especially in today's society, to break that chain of the shit eating, the drinking, especially in Australian society. But once you break it and you just have a taste of the other side, you're like, oh, I actually wake up this morning, I don't feel like a piece of shit. I'm motivated, and then you get that first hit of motivation and you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to keep doing this. And then you fall off.
It's the same with like doing new events like 9D breathwork or you know, sound healing ceremonies. Like I was saying to Luke in our podcast a couple of weeks back, I was never one of those guys that walk into a fucking cacao sound healing ceremony. You know, I really wasn't, and that's no offense to it, but like, because it's one of the best things ever. But you know, and we also spoke about how like you know, when I was at his event, you know, I'm looking around the room, it's just all females. There's a couple of blokes in there, and I think as males, everything we're sort of talking about, if you and making change, you really got to be making change to alcohol and what we're putting in our body and who we're hanging around with, but also finding other ways to, you know, heal yourself, I guess, because a lot of these bad decisions that we make are coming from in a trauma or something from
coping mechanisms.
Yeah,
100%.
Yep,
that's all it is a coping mechanism. When we cut it out, we also have to find new coping mechanisms, whether that's connecting with other guys or finding things that are more in alignment and more conducive to a healthy body, healthy spirit, healthy mind. I think that's the thing that people miss, is when they decide, like, I'm going to cut this out, go cold turkey, is that we also need to have a replacement for what it was that we were using it as a coping mechanism. And sometimes that's just talking with 3 other dudes in a podcast like that can do that. It can be very simple. And I think with your point with determination and motivation is that I don't actually feel like determination is a conscious choice. It's something that's forged over time. And motivation only lasts up until the moment of failure. But if you keep being motivated to go back, all these failures start cultivating determination, and that carries you through. And like motivation is only momentary, but the determination is what can really drive it all the way forwards. And that only happens through failure or adversity sometimes.
Adversity, that's a massive one. I think with failure as well, like you said there, everyone fails. Numerous times. If you don't fail, you're living under a rock. Everyone fails. But I think it's celebrating the small wins.
100%.
And, you know, for me, quitting smoking was the hardest thing I did, because everyone smoked around me. And I'll never forget the day. It was 2 weeks into it, and I went cold turkey. And I was sitting at an Australia Day party. Every single person around me, about 20 guys, everyone had a cigarette in their hand. And I'm sitting there, and I'm just itching for one. I was drunk as, I was on drugs. I literally was just itching for a cigarette, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, you know what? If I can fucking get through this day, I can take anything on.
How do you give up cigarettes when you're on drugs and drinking, man?
I woke up the next morning, the most hungover I've ever been. I didn't have a cigarette. Man, I celebrated, I celebrated.
With a beer. With a vape.
With the cigarette.
With a cigarette.
But the other key is too, man, on that is, you know, because I've lived the life of it, and, you know, it's getting back up on the horse, man. Like, you got to let go. You got to let go. As hard as it is, I know that, and as males, we fucking, if you're anything like me, you beat yourself fucking up, man, like massively. I'm the worst for it, to the point where you know, everything else around you is fine, but you're not fine with yourself. And sometimes that can lead into continuing on drinking or smoking or whatever it may be, because you know, you're like, oh well, fucked up and blah blah blah, and you carry on that path. So I sort of feel that the sooner you can get over your fucking trip that you've tripped over, you dust yourself off, you stand up, you learn from it, and you fucking keep walking forward. And I think if you can get that process down pat and going quick, because I mean, all of it, I mean, addiction, man, fucking, you're gonna fail. I mean, you hear stories of like fucking people just quitting overnight, even if they are on drugs and fucking drinking. But you know, I mean, they're miracle stories. But if we're being real about it, you know, you're gonna fuck up. You know, and that ain't an excuse to say that it's okay to just, you know, go back to your old habits. But if you do go back to your old habit, it's important, I feel, to get up. And I also reckon something that holds you accountable as well, man. You know, if you can have something where, you know, for me, it's like, I don't want to do it to my kids, man. Like, I'm here to fucking show them, man. I'll put them through enough shit. So I need to make sure that from here on in, that I'm accountable to make, you know, because it's my responsibility to be that better person for them. So that's something that sort of keeps me in check a lot. And I think if you can sort of grab onto something like that, I mean, people talk about having accountable buddies, you know, and things like that.
I feel like sometimes like it's so beneficial to have that accountability, and in the same breath, I feel like it's such a shame that we don't hold ourselves in such a high regard that we would do it for us, like where we would do it for other people first. And it just shows like how sometimes like we don't value ourselves enough to be like, you know what, I want to do this for me actually.
You know, touching on that,
That's
like
good
going
point,
back on the story, it does sound like a miracle, but I missed an important part of it, of how I failed for years before that.
Yeah.
Where I'd get to a Sunday after drinking Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and I'd feel like a piece of shit. I'd quit smoking. I'd throw it back in the bin. Come Wednesday, I'd cave in. I'd be weak and vulnerable, but back into it. This went on repeat for years. But like touching on what you said, it went to a point where I was ashamed. I was ashamed of what the people around me were thinking. I was pretty good at hiding shit as well, but I was ashamed. They might not have been ashamed, but I was ashamed of the person I was portraying to my friends and my family, my loved ones. So for me, it was, and it was harsh, but I'm harsh on myself, very harsh on myself. But I think it's the most positive thing I can do, because I was like, right, you need to stop being a piece of shit and commit. If you say you're going to fucking quit. But like I think it's pretty important I mentioned that for years I didn't.
Yeah.
I failed. But it's because I really didn't attach the why to it. Once I attached the why, like
What's the why, man? Like, I mean, I know what the why is, but like, let's talk about that why, eh?
Well, I think everyone sitting here has got a why. You know, we all have a why. You just got to dig deep. And for me, you know, my why, seeing my mum go through an illness for years, it became the norm. You know, and I went travelling and I was living my best life and she encouraged me to travel. My mum's a beautiful lady, she's travelled the world. But I don't think I was the best version for her when I should have been in the times. And it just comes down to my inner self, you know. So my why is I just want to be the best version of myself possible for the people around me, because everyone benefits.
Is this written on a bit of paper, or is this where's your why?
It is. So,
or is it just something that you hold in your mind? And
no, every morning I do affirmations.
Yep.
So I write down what I'm grateful for, 3 things, my goals for the day, 3 things, and I write my why. And my why is, it's usually 2 or 3 paragraphs, and it says I want to be the best version for myself and people around me. I want to make the people I love proud of me. I'm doing what I'm doing, and I do that every single morning. And then on my wall in my room, I've got an accomplishment board where all my accomplishments go up, little things to massive things, because you need to celebrate your small wins. Accomplishment board. I'm lucky I'm single, because my room's just peppered with this shit everywhere, man. You walk through my house and there's just posters everywhere, just smacking you in the face. But I've got the accomplishment board, then I've got my vision board, and then I've got my fuck you list. And this is inspired by Ned Brockman. I don't know if you guys know him. He ran across Australia to raise money for homeless people. Absolutely awesome Aussie bloke. He's got a fuck you list. And it's anyone that's doubted him, said negative stuff, it goes in the fuck you list. And I heard this idea and I loved it, because I got so much shit from a lot of people. This list is full on my wall. And every morning I see it, and it's like a year 10 teacher that said I wasn't going to graduate school. I graduated school, so fuck you, go on the list. But you know, it's my wife.
How do you get a photo of him, man?
School book.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, it's I do reflect on that every morning, but it's why I get up at the crack of dawn, hit the gym. It's why I'm ridiculously strict on my diet. You know, it's why I'm running this ultra marathon for men's mental health.
Yep.
You know, it's a why.
And how long has this been going on for yourself?
This is a short journey so far. So it's been 2 years of the personal growth journey. But I only started this journey, I know Dave will relate, is because I got to the lowest of lows.
But it's been successful, obviously.
Yeah, with about 3 million failures along the way.
Yeah.
Then it's not a failure.
Then it's not a failure, yeah. But that's what it's all about.
You look
it's just
well.
attaching the why.
Yeah. You look happy.
But you know, I have had this conversation 2 years ago.
Of course.
I'd be it's about moral, half cut already. Like it's, but I just value this kind of stuff so much now because there is 99% of the population in the same boat that just need to attach a why, just need to find something to drive them, and then you're off. And everyone's why is different. It can be a full selfless why on yourself, or selfish why, sorry, or it could be on your family, your kids, anything. Like everyone's got a why.
And I think just going back to what you're saying before, as soon as you get the taste for it as well, the hardest part is obviously just crossing that bridge, really, isn't it? You know, once you get a little snippet of it or a little taste of it, slowly. I mean, I know with this journey that I've been on, like just having a little bit of this just gave me a bit of a smell. And it's like, man, I want to explore a little bit further, and you know, and before you know it, you are. And have I made failures along the way? Of course I have, man. You know, and we're lying to ourselves to think, even in our greatest, you know, if this is what we call the peak of our life right now, we're gonna hit some hard times in life. I think this is the other thing to all of this. You know, there's hard days, man. Yeah. You know, there's hard fucking
for
days.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think being honest with that about it. And I guess I guess then it's then using the new tool bag that you've sort of created from the small or long journey that you've been on, you know. Yeah,
it is a big one, that one, and I think you got to fail a lot. You definitely have to fail a lot.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the time, and we've already touched on it with the breath work and the yoga and stuff like that. Breath work changed my life. And I'm like, I should earn a percentage trying to sell this stuff because I rate it to everyone, and a lot of people are against it. And I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. 2 years ago, if someone said, let's go do breath work, I'd say that's for faggots. Like, I'm being honest with you, that was my mentality. It was shit. Where now, that one breath work my mate took me to, I said, you know what, fuck it, I'm the lowest of lows, I'm going to give it a go.
Was that your first one that I met yet?
No,
you'd done it before then.
Done it with Ronan. And I remember I was uncomfortable, very uncomfortable, and I've soon learned that the uncomfortable is the best zone to live life in. Yeah. And I come out of that and I was speechless. I cried the whole time. I screamed, I shouted. Yeah. I had so much trauma come up. And when people say, I don't have much trauma, I've had a pretty cruisy life, everyone's got trauma. Trauma doesn't have to be rape, abuse. It can be anything from primary school year 6, you get punched in the face and you've suppressed it. And once I started dealing with that trauma, that's when the journey started. And I think that's a massive one. For me, was breath work. It initiated that. It put a bit of fuel on the fire. And once you start dealing with the trauma, I found I didn't have to rely on alcohol, partying, sex, stuff like that, because you're dealing with the trauma. Where today's society, it's masked so much that you're suppressing it with drugs and alcohol and partying, which you think you're having fun. And there's nothing wrong with that. You are having fun to a certain extent. You've got to be very self-aware when it goes from fun to suppressing. And it's a very fine line, I think. And a lot of people are caught up in it. And it doesn't have to be breathwork to deal with trauma. You can see a psychologist, you can have a good group of friends. I mean, that's another thing, having a good group of friends in your corner.
Look, man, I've got to be careful what I say here, but I reckon you got to go to breathwork. I reckon you got to do plant-based meaning. You got to do something. If you've got trauma, and you keep lapsing on drugs or alcohol or whatever your fucking addictions are because you're trying to suppress whatever the fuck is going on. And a lot of us don't even know what it is, but there is something that's happened. I believe that talking about it with counsellors, I mean, I think it's great to go and see someone. I honestly do. I think if you're going to open up, it's a really good place to start. But speaking to a psychologist or a counsellor, whatever you want to call it, over and over again, ain't going to fucking deal with the trauma. You're just going to talk about whatever the fuck it is.
It's not moving energy.
It ain't moving energy, man. No. And to me, my real healing came about was when, we talk about ayahuasca, plant-based medicine, breath work, man. I mean, that's fucking amazing. Even healing ceremonies, and there's different levels of it. I mean, like that come up. I mean, I'm sitting in your ceremony. I mean, we spoke about it on the last podcast, but things are coming up, man. I'm actually stopped and I'm thinking about stuff and I'm like, fuck, and you're just getting, it's something that's been suppressed for so long and it's just allowing to release. And sometimes it's just released so subtly. Is that the right word? It's
spontaneous.
Yeah, and it's just
what
released.
Comes up. But I'll tell you what won't fix it is fucking pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm so against it. I can understand antidepressants have a time and place in a detrimental situation, but it is horrendous how you just something gets labelled and then you get a prescription and you're off.
It's crazy, bro.
And I've got so many mates on antidepressants.
Man, I was on 10 years.
Exactly,
10 years I was on them.
And
I
from
was a
being on
zombie.
them to being off them, are you off them now?
Yeah, I've been off them 6 years.
Yeah. Do you think you needed them at the time, or?
No.
I'm interested
I
in your
went to the
thoughts on that.
doctors because I had a panic attack, and they put me on citalopram instantly.
Yeah.
I didn't get any kind of like other options. It was like, oh, it's anxiety, displaying a little bit of depression, but I wasn't really. I wasn't depressed at the time, and I got put straight onto citalopram, and I was taking that for 10 years because once I was on it, that was it. I was on him.
Yeah.
And I was a zombie. Like, I didn't feel any emotion. I went from being a really emotional person, very sensitive, to it numbed me. And I feel like I almost chose to stay on them as well at that point, because I was like, oh, this is actually, I don't have to feel shit anymore. But then when I came off them through plant medicine, it's like Pandora's box had to be opened, and then had to process it all, which was uncomfortable, but the best thing I ever did. So yeah, I mean, I feel like pharmaceuticals, they have their time and place, but that's not.
I think you should need. I share the same view as you guys with it, but if we are going to keep them, have at least give people the fucking option. Like, go, okay, well, there's antidepressants, or there's 9D breathwork down the road. I suggest go and do a 9D breathwork or a sound healing, or fucking go and see Bryan down at Thrive and do a detox program, and then come back and see me and see how you fucking feel. Not just here's a script.
If you're put on them, there needs to be a date that you are coming off them.
And
like,
help to come off
yeah,
them.
exactly. And everything has to be pointing towards coming off them
The
as
help
soon as
is
you're on
never
them.
there.
Yeah.
No.
Unfortunately, once you go down that path, that's their solution. That's their only solution.
Well, it makes them a lot of money.
So we need to be able to open up different pathways.
Yeah.
Okay, we're feeling really, really low. We need a doctor. Maybe not. But if you're going down that path and you're taking a product that's going to change your chemical brain balance to make you feel a particular way, then I think we need to also look at different pathways and say, okay, let's try this and let's try that. And then let's slowly bring this down and increase that. It's that balance that we need.
Yeah, for sure.
And how's that? Like, I mean, we're talking about desperate. Like, people are out there suffering, man, more than ever, man. I mean, we're seeing fucking suicide rates, you know, going through the roof and whatnot. And we could talk about that, but like, you know, it's easy to go to the doctor because that's who we've been told who, you know, heals and fucking, you know, if you got something wrong, you go and see a doctor and you got to trust them because they're a doctor. But
there are so many natural products specific for sadness, specific for anxiety, specifics for depression, which are, and specific for insomnia. Yeah, the nervous system covers all those four realms, which are crossed over. Okay, so some patients are depressed, but they're also anxious, and they've also got insomnia, and they also feel sad. So as a naturopath, I've always differentiated exactly.
So
how
a
do you
naturopath
feel?
in those, so you'd encourage to go and see a naturopath.
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
yeah.
We want to change the balance, the chemical balance in our body, in our microbiome. That's one thing, but also in our brain. Our nervous system can be controlled with plants, medicine, vitamins, minerals. It makes a massive difference. Like, people say to me, oh, but I've heard that it takes so long to work. It's absolute rubbish. I can give you a tablet and within 3 days you're feeling so different because I follow up on them and they tell me.
Well, I sort of know. It's money, isn't it? You
It's
know,
money.
like,
It's
yeah.
money. It's all money.
I mean, you know, and I can say this because Mum's very open about this, but my mum wouldn't be around if it wasn't for pharmaceuticals, but she also wouldn't be around if it wasn't for natural medicine. And my mum is extremely spiritual and alternative. So when the doctor said you got 5 years to live, Mum said, get fucked. I'm not ready to go. She took the medication she had to take, but she also tried
Had a
every
different
alternative
path.
thing
Yeah,
under
exactly.
the sun. And that's why Mum's still living today, and she's going to live till a ripe old age because of natural alternatives. And that's why I say pharmaceuticals have their place, but Mum's extremely proactive about it. So when they give her something, she'll research the shit out of it. And a lot of the medication doesn't agree with her. And I won't delve into that because that's her life, but you know, she knows pharmaceuticals she can take, she can't take, and exactly what it does to her body. And I always just shrugged Mum off, and this is where I say I want to be a better version, because I said to Mum, just take your tablets, what the doctor said. And I regret that, because now I look at it and I'm like, you know what, Mum did the right thing. How to look into alternative. And that's why pharmaceuticals have a place. But you know, there's a disgusting statistic. I'm not going to mention who told me it, but they work in a government agency, right? Emergency calls, and I think it was 80 or 90% of emergency calls, you got to straight away say, are you on a medication? 80 to 90% antidepressants on the phone calls.
Yep.
That's not okay.
Yep.
Everyone in life has depression and anxiety. Sometimes outside circumstances can enhance it.
Definitely, there's no judgment towards it at all.
No.
There's a fucking
It needs to be normalised.
There's no magic tablet that fucking fixes it either. Like, that's
There
the thing.
certainly isn't. And at this stage, I really need to share something, because a lot of antidepressant pharmaceuticals end up causing symptoms of suicidal thoughts. I've treated dozens and dozens of patients who have just been given a new drug to trial, and it's got in their head somehow that they're just driving along and they see the tree and they're like, and they're telling me this, they're like, I just thought to myself, fuck, I just want to turn the steering wheel and go straight for the tree. That's the thought that came to their head. I mean, that's not a thought that we come up with.
No.
You know, and it's a change of chemicals, you know. It might be changing you to make you feel numb, but it can also cause these suicidal effects. And this is well documented in the medical journals, but they still just close a blind eye to it.
Here I am
which is
sitting,
such a shame.
just go and see Bryan at 5. Like, fuck, mate, for me, that's like, I didn't know that. Like, I'm sitting here like, this is news to me. I mean, I knew that. I knew there's ways of probably getting your emotions and things doing better, but there's a plant-based medicines that you can take that helps with anxieties, that helps
just
with
work instantly.
And I feel like as soon as you start treating
more
the
people
body,
need to know that.
I know, like it's not because they don't want that information out there.
There's no money in it.
There's no money.
It's the
in
same
it.
as cannabis.
Yeah.
You know, I lived in Canada for a while and it's legal. Place is an amazing place. You know, when in medicinal, I had a bad back.
Yeah.
They gave me medicinal stuff. It actually helped. I had this cream. It helped my shoulder. It's amazing. The only kind of difference I noticed was, you know, in Australia we've got drink driving adverts. Over there they've got don't drive stoned. It's quite a funny advert. He's got a big pot of chips and just pouring tomato sauce on it, and then he just thinks to go driving, and he ends up watching Netflix. So it's a good advert, but you know, it works well and it's proven. You know, I've got CBD oil that I make, and it's great for sleeping. It's great for anxiety. Like there's the plant-based medicine's amazing. 100%. But it's just the money.
And again, and again, it also comes down, like, it's taboo as well for a lot of people as well. Like, you know, CBD oil, and you know, people. I know with some people even that I know are very much, you know, if it's outside the box, it's very hard to accept. You know, because it's been looked at as like cannabis. It's a bad drug.
Anything's
I've
bad
got to
when
say,
you
it's starting to really move.
Yeah.
That the traditionalists, the people that are 100% GP pharmaceutical, are starting to look into it, and they're starting to try.
Well, we've got our first psychedelic treatment centre.
That's it. That's what I was just about to get into. It's like if you think about these medicines that are plant medicines, each plant medicine has its own spirit and its own intelligence. And I feel like a lot of our illness and sickness comes from a disconnect from source. And when we're disconnected from source, we get very sick. And when you get a pharmaceutical drug, it completely disconnects you from any type of spiritual experience. You just become a zombie, practically. And these plants not only heal the body, but they start to heal the mind and the spirit holistically as well. And I feel like anything that just treats the body is still a Band-Aid. We have to strengthen our own relationship to something greater than ourselves, because our biggest fear is death. Our biggest fear is our insignificance of what if there is nothing outside of this. And getting a stronger faith in something through plant medicine, through cacao ceremonies, through meditation, through yoga, it brings us back to life.
Yeah.
And for what we're intended, because in my belief, we're just vehicles that are here to bring through an intelligence and have an experience and collect all these amazing experiences, and then we go wherever we go. But if we're cut off from that, we're not fulfilling our own divine purpose. We're just NPCs or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a mate that microdosed mushrooms. So he was suicidal. He'd actually attempted to take his life numerous times. And he tried antidepressants, tried all the pharmaceuticals, and he started microdosing mushrooms. He is the happiest person I've met. He's trained jiu-jitsu, he's got a missus, he's got a kid, he's just loving life. And that's from microdosing mushrooms. Like, it's black and white, clear as day, but it's still not happening. And like I said, pharmaceuticals have their place, but like you guys have all said, the plant-based medicine is powerful, man. And when it comes to mental health like that...
yeah, I mean, I keep banging on about it all the time, but ayahuasca, man, was my... I looked at ayahuasca in the ceremony and thought, fuck, if this doesn't help me, I don't know what is. And it fucking gave me a whole different perspective on things, man. Even about what happens after death, you know. You sort of come to terms with it. Oh, well, you know, you understand it a lot better.
100%. But it's the peak of life is the moment that we die. Like, that is the peak of life. That's when we've had our entire existence.
Full surrender.
Full surrender. That's when we have to really step up to the plate. It's just like, all right, what's next? I'm in. Let's go.
Do you know what I wonder? And I'd like to just mention this to see if you guys have ever thought about it. I don't know if I've mentioned this to you on the phone or not. I think I might have. I think daily, if not weekly, who would be at my funeral? It is such a motivator, though. It is such a motivator. Who would be there? What would they say?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we're all going to die. Just don't know when. But would you want them to just rock up and mourn your death, or would you want them to rock up and go, man, you know, this guy did this, did this, he helped me do this? Like, it's such a motivator for me. I don't know if you guys ever thought about it, but and it's not a negative way to think. It's like we're all going to die eventually. Yeah. People are going to go to our funeral. What do you want them to say about you? Like, oh yeah, he partied hard, he was good fun, or he changed my life. You know, he helped me here. He did this, he gave me a job. Like,
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It's such a powerful thought to have, and that's like just a little, and that's probably flares up the motivation.
That's
actually,
a motivation
have a think and
to
say,
make you a better person.
Yeah, mine's more not what other people would think. Mine's more like, fucking, what did I do? If I'm on my deathbed, can I wholeheartedly put my hand on my chest and say, fuck, I gave it a good go. I done the things of what I wanted to be, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something you don't think about much as well. Like, none of us are guaranteed tomorrow.
No.
At all. It's such a scary thought, but it's like, why the fuck would you want to waste it?
All we've got is now, man.
Crack
That's
on.
it.
Yeah. Like,
I very often think, like, my thought is dying and then having like a review of all of the moments where I was at my worst, like personality, or where maybe I reacted, and just watching it from a third person perspective. And that's terrifying, because now when I'm in this state, I'm like cool, calm, collected, everything's cool. But sometimes in the past, in those states, I've said things or done things where out of fear, ultimately, out of the fear of not being enough or having somebody think a certain way about me, I've betrayed myself as being somebody, and having to watch that and who I've hurt. I'm like,
it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
It's going to be all right, because we need to realise that we all go through this.
Yeah.
You know, nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
That's actually really good words, man.
People get sad.
Yeah.
people get depressed.
Yeah.
I've had depression, I've had anxiety, I've felt sadness, you know. It's normal. It's a normal part of our journey. And I think people need to realise that it is the norm.
Yeah.
Everybody goes through this.
Mm.
It's okay to be sad. It's okay to feel like you don't want to get up today and pick up your phone. Oh shit, who's calling me? Oh no, I'm not going to answer that. You know, who's knocking at the door? Fuck, I don't want to let that guy in, you know. We all go through this. It's a normal part of life. But we just got to keep going because this is life.
But you know what? It's been made abnormal. You know, like we need to normalise it, and it's the same with men's mental health. Like females and males all have mental health, but males, it's not okay to cry. It's not okay to feel down. You need to feel like a man. You need to be the man. We got to break that stigma because it's and like this is quite a tender subject for me, but men are dropping like flies. The statistics is disgusting. You know, for every 6 females with mental health, only 1 male has mental health issues. Females have more mental health issues. They do have more resources, and females are much better at talking about their emotions, expressing their emotions. Men are fucking terrible at it. But the resources for men, the statistics, females have more, but 7 men a day commit suicide to 1 female. So men just take action because it's not okay with society, what you said, to be open, to cry, to show your emotion, express your emotion, be vulnerable. You have those depressive days, you have those anxiety days, you don't want to open the door, but it's not okay in society for that, and that's why the statistics are outnumbered. Like, the men are dropping like flies.
I feel like this ties in with us. It ties in with the cycle of where humanity has come from and where we're at now and where we're going. I feel like in the past, the universe, the world was operating at a dualistic level where there was polarity, there was masculine and feminine. And during that time, we had to be separate to know ourselves in a certain way. And we're evolving into this new epoch of time where we're becoming more balanced within, where we're bringing into balance inside the masculine and the feminine in ourselves. And in the past, when there was that separation, if men were to display emotions in front of their women, it may have been seen as weakness. Whereas in this day and age, it's seen as strength. But because we're so conditioned from the past, we're afraid, because if I'm not holding the masculine pole, my woman's going to leave me. That's what the past showed us, or showed men. And now it's not the case. And I feel like as we move forwards, and we, both men and women, come into this balanced state where they're both playing these dynamics between us, it's going to change. And I feel like we're just digging our feet in the ground, like we don't want to evolve because we're scared that if we do evolve and we do express our emotions, it's not going to be accepted. We're going to be walked away from, we'll be abandoned, and we'll be fucked, essentially. It's a safety thing.
Yeah,
but
you could not have said that any better.
As women are rising in their power, they're able to hold us in our vulnerability. And that is what we need. We need to be held by women in our vulnerability.
You know what got mentioned at the men's mental health conference I went to a couple of weeks ago, and this shocked me. This guy stood up, and a lot of females came, which I thought was amazing, because for men's mental health to get better, we need females.
100%.
To help for females' mental health, we need better men that don't abuse sexually, physically, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It takes both parties to make them both work. But he stood up and he said, you know, I'm suffering from mental health because my wife, she brings the income in. I've been kind of shifted to a stay-at-home dad, which is nothing wrong with that. But like you said, conditioned. And he is now in a depressive state because he feels like he's not
a hunter and gatherer.
He's not a hunter and gatherer. He's not supplying for his family. He's not being the man to bring the bread home. You know, he's not the breadwinner. Where I'm all for females being the breadwinner for sure. But this guy, so he would have been in his 50s, and he was now in a very bad depressive state because of that.
Yeah.
And that's like you've said, that there's got to be a change there, because there's nothing wrong with that situation at all. But he thought it was, and now he thinks he's less of a man because of it.
And it's hard because we're dealing with our primal, we've got DNA coding, we've got our kind of ancestry lineage that runs through our blood, which was like that. So for us to change, it's a lot. It's like, it's hard because we feel in ourselves, or I feel in myself, that I need to be a certain man to be able to hold this masculine kind of presence. But I feel like the chemical body, the physical body, is taking almost like a seat back, and this, like, our spirit as humanity is taking the forefront. Like, I feel like we're just I don't want to say ascending, but we're becoming more illuminated as spiritual beings in a human body, and not just human bodies anymore.
I think where those sort of thoughts we're talking about as well, when they come up, we're suppressing them, and this is where drugs and alcohol come in as well. Like, if we talk about, like, I'm not a hunter and gatherer, or I don't feel like I'm providing for my family the way I see that I should be providing way through the family, so then you're suppressing them. And then I think this is where we start talking about surrendering, and you got to be open to new knowledge, I think, or a new perspective on life. I mean, even for me sitting here on this journey, but even listening to you guys, a lot of it you got to be open to, man. You can't sit there, like, even when we talk about breath work, a lot of people, the first response we get from people is like, oh, I'm just scared of what's going to come up.
Yeah.
Fuck, is that not a reason to go and do it? I think I want this shit to come up.
Yeah.
And
Better
it's
out than
fucking
in.
scary.
Yeah.
The shit that's come up for me, and I know you and I have spoken about it with breath work, fucking scary. Like, I've left there feeling very vulnerable, very vulnerable, even demasculated a few times. But you sit with it, and the next day I'm empowered, man. Like, I feel empowered because you dealt with that shit. And a lot of that trauma is shame as well.
Yeah,
You get rid of shame.
You know, the good thing is the men's group, and this is what I'm loving here as well, man. It's like therapy as well. We're all bouncing off each other, we're educating each other, and I hope this keeps going on. But the same thing is with some of these circles of breath work. It's the same with ayahuasca. You get this opportunity to talk about what went on, or what's going on in a quite a safe place, and I think sometimes that's just what you need.
Yep.
You need to hear someone else's, sometimes, not that you'll get any enjoyment out of hearing another bloke suffer, but a lot of the time, if we go to Alan's breathwork thing, when we're all going around and we're talking stories about ourselves, I don't think there was any one of those stories I didn't relate to.
Yeah.
I fucking related to every single one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With ours as well, is seeing big, strong, masculine men cry, show their emotion, hug you. It's so powerful.
Yeah, it's healing us.
It is so powerful.
Yeah.
Because you've always got that self-image. You don't want to cry in front of men. You've got that ego that comes in. But that was ours workshop, and obviously the Men movement coming up as well workshop. It's so powerful because it is masculine men. Even feminine men, doesn't matter. It's just men getting together and just letting it out. And seeing other men do that, whether they're tattooed up or they're an accountant, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You all relate, and you come out of there and you're like, you just feel like that day was powerful.
You feel normal.
Man.
Yeah.
You do feel normal.
That's what we need to know.
You're just a man
You feel
without the
yourself
label.
Normal.
Yeah.
You feel
So
yourself.
good.
You can actually sit there and be like, I'm happy with myself.
Yeah. That's the most important thing. You spoke about your listeners, the audience, and a lot of them struggling. They need to realise that it's part of their journey. Unfortunately, it's a very real, normal position to be in. If you're financially in a mess, then you've got to have a plan. If you're sad and you're depressed, then you've got to look at things to make you feel a little better and have those days that you're going to be coming back to that depression and sadness, but have a little plan. Go out for a walk, go to the gym, speak to a friend,
And little steps as well, man. It's those little steps that fucking make a big difference.
Do you think bringing it back to the simplistic terms as well is just looking at your environment?
Yeah.
You know, you're waking up, you're like, I'm feeling a bit shit, but you sit with it. I do this all the time. I sit with it and go, why am I feeling shit? You know, I had food last night that was high in fats. I felt a bit shit this morning. Or, you know, you leave a shopping centre and someone, you know, pushed you, didn't even talk to you or anything. Just simple things like that though, or even your environment. I found I was around people and it was complaining about their job, complaining about their missus. You know, you leave there feeling shit. And I kind of think of it as mental real estate. It's what you allow into your mental real estate. I'm so strict on that now because it can jeopardise your mental health. If you're around people that are constantly negative, you will become negative. It's that famous saying, you know, the 5 closest people you hang out with, you'll inevitably become. It's so true. Your environment, so when you start to feel those days you're feeling a bit down, you sit with those thoughts and you say, why? Is it just one of those days? Fine. We all have those days. What can I do to make it better? Is there a certain podcast I like, a certain genre of music? You know, is there something that I can click to get me going again? Or is it an outside source that I've allowed myself to let in or go to that's brought me down? And I think your environment is massive.
It's huge.
Also, just the addiction of feeling shit as well, man. I think sometimes people don't want to let go of those fucking. I think they're used to being in that environment, those thoughts.
If it defines them,
allowing yourself to put on some music and fucking be happy and feel that joy, man. To wake up, like and like what you say, it's normal, man. And sometimes the addiction, you know, sometimes our comfort zones aren't all that comfortable, but it's our comfort zone is what we're used to. So therefore we go and self-destruct things to go back into that comfort zone, you know?
I feel like that's where self-awareness and self-reflection really just comes in. It's like first thing you wake up, you're feeling shit. You can determine, is me feeling shit going to have a positive outcome? Like, do I need to feel shit because I need to process something that's come up in me? In which case, do I let it just play out for a time? And it's just having that constant reflection of where we're at in the moment. And if not, that's where the first determination comes in, is I'm determined that I'm going to try to do everything in my power to make myself feel better. Whether that's have a cold shower or just listen to good music, whatever it is, just to change your environment so that you can incrementally feel a lot better about yourself. And sometimes we do need to sit in shit because it's actually beneficial. But it gets to a point, and it's a very fine line of it's not beneficial anymore. And it's just having that awareness. And if you don't have the awareness, having brothers or people close to you to say, it's probably time.
Yeah. And you know what, that was me today. Like I mentioned, you know, the emotions all came up from my past mates that I've lost. And I cried and I sat with that for a while. And it took me to quite a low energy, low frequency. I felt shit. I could have just left that and just written the day off. Yeah. Especially knowing that we're doing this podcast. I want to come in with better energy. And that's why I sat and did that breath work. And it was hard to do and it took me a while, but it's just been proactive. And it's like, right, I'm feeling like shit. Determination kicks in. Right, what do I know? Right, this one breath work, that does help me a bit. And it took me ages to get into it, but I got into it, you know. And then on the drive here, I listened to a really good Jordan Peterson podcast, got me a bit fired up. So it's like little things like that, though, being proactive. It doesn't mean you've got to write the day off. You've got to sit with the shit, 100%. I sat with the emotions, I cried, you know, I mourned my mates again. I sat with all that, and then I thought, right, I'm not going to let that write the day off. But that was fucking hard. To switch that and to try and come here with good energy, like you said, you didn't have the best day either. Like, it's fucking hard, but you just got to sit in the shit and then just find that determination to get out of it.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I think we need to really focus on changing that chemical imbalance in our brain, because that's what's causing these emotions and these feelings. And we can label them as sadness or depression or whatever. But when you find these natural medicines that actually work, like if you've got pain, you take a Panadol and it takes the pain away. We're literally taking these natural medicines that change the chemical balance in your body and in your brain, and all of a sudden that feeling of sadness disappears. It's quite amazing. So I'm going to say, please look at rebalancing that as one thing to do. Look into it. You don't necessarily need to come and see me, but great if you do. But investigate it, look it up. There's lots of information out there. And then work on other things.
Yeah.
But that's a first thing I think everybody should look into. Even if you're on pharmaceuticals, you can still take some safe mineral salts, magnesium and potassium phosphate and things like this, to bring down your nervous tension. We've got to unwind this pressure, this nervous pressure that causes these diverse feelings in us. So that's a primary. That's what I would add.
I would say that would be my first go-to, because I feel like it's the one that is the quickly, like it's being able to execute it quickly. Yeah. It's effective to get us to the place. Just treating the body. Yeah. So treating the body and the chemical body first. Then once the chemical body is feeling less tension, treat it with plants. Yep. With plants. So
but taking we don't ourselves know that until we've gone and seen you. Yeah, or researched it a bit more.
If you're feeling
I'm just thinking for those that are...
Well, if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling inflamed, whatever that is, I would say that the body is probably in an acidic state. And for us to get ourselves into an alkaline state as quickly as possible and to treat the body first with seeing people like yourself and then working on, I would say, the environment's probably next, because once the body's in a good place, then we just keep rippling out until sort the environment out, which is going to be better for our emotions, treat the emotions, and then once all that's, find our higher meaning in life, our spiritual meaning in life, and all of those together just come together for holistic health. And I feel like that's the key. There's no one road, they all lead to the top of the mountain.
Have a plan.
Yeah.
Scribble it down, put it on paper.
More specific on where to go though.
Yeah. So
like I think what Dave, like kind of what you mentioned, you know, if you've no idea of what any of this is about, but you're taking a fuckload of antidepressants and you want to change your life, you know, what steps you need to take? Because someone might take this as, I need to get a bag of mushies and go out in the bush, but that might actually fuck them up.
100%, especially if they're on antidepressants. They don't want to do that. That's what I mean
though. You know, a lot of people, and speaking from experience myself, you know, like 2 years ago, if someone said plant-based medicine, ayahuasca or something, in my head that's go out in the bush, trip for a week or two. You can do that on acid. You know what I mean? Like, where would someone go? Like, what would their strategical steps be in more of a slow pace?
Yeah, I think look it up on the internet and get some information about the nervous system and about treating to unwind that tension that we first got, and secondary, find the right therapist for you. You know, find a naturopath that can help you, because not all naturopaths have that focus. You know, like I mentioned, my clinic is about pain management, but personally I do nervous system detoxing. That's what I love doing. So you got to just find that right person. I feel get that advice.
Yeah, and I feel when you're on that journey, like the universe just opens it up for you as well. Like mine's podcasts, YouTube, you know, watching it, and slowly but surely you know, but you got to be reactive to it. Like you got to do it. You got to, you know, we're not.
It's being 100%. Proactive, isn't it? When it doesn't work, you know, like I notice my sporting injuries. If I try acupuncture, cupping, physio, chiro, and for instance, I battled a shoulder injury for a long time, and I resented a chiropractor because I thought they'd just crack you, bill you, and leave. The chiropractor literally has fixed me, and I have battled this for years. And I think it's the same with natural medicine. You can't just go to the one that think didn't fucking work.
Absolutely.
Hey, boys, I'm gonna wrap this up. As much as I'm enjoying it, I actually get a lot of therapy out of this.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And we'll do it more for sure. I think this has been great. I want to thank each and every one of you for bringing your topic, your stories, your knowledge, your journeys, because I know already this is going to help fucking hundreds of people. You know, and I think one thing we can take from here is that we'll encourage one another to keep talking about these, you know, in our own worlds, and, you know, always welcome back on here. This is going to be something that's going to continue on forever. We've got all the support. But yeah, from from my heart, man, I thank the three of you coming on here tonight, and the team as well.
Thank you.
But yeah, I've got to wrap it up, man.
Yeah.
And those who are listening at home got to this point, all these details will be on my website. You can find each one of us and what we're doing in our own journeys, and yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, bro. Holding the space.
Until next time.
Until next time, boys. Thank you.